It's time for the Wrestling Observer Extra.
One more time for old time's sake.
With Dave Meltzer, right here on The Law. Live audio wrestling.
And let's go. My now smoking with the best.
Welcome back just after midnight, second hour of The Law, live audio wrestling. We head to San Jose to talk to the editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Dave, we're not going to taint you with our views, but just overall, Extreme Rules was tonight. What are your thoughts on the show?
I thought that the four-way and the main event were excellent, and the rest of the card was kind of like forgettable.
So basically the same as
Echoing much of the sentiment. Real standout match we felt with that icy
brilliant
title match, and the just overall top to tail well booked and well worked. So coming out of this, though, looking at the main event, you have Seth Rollins' return afterwards. If there's an immediate program here with Reigns and Rollins, what do you see AJ Styles doing at this point?
Probably the ladder match, Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
So
I could see a real loaded Money in the Bank match with some of the guys that were in the four-way as well.
Right, exactly.
And I'm not sure where Miz fits in. They'll probably have a match for him. But I think that like Owens and Sami Zayn and AJ Styles and Cesaro could all be in that match, yeah.
That's one doozy of a match.
Yeah.
And, the hot topic on the show tonight just organically has gone to who's the favorite to come out of Money in the Bank this year with that briefcase.
Kevin Owens.
That's what we were saying too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't really thought about it very hard, but when I kind of look at the show tonight, you could go with Styles, but it always fits better with the heel.
Yeah.
And he's the heel.
And just imagine how great his promos would be, Dave, with the briefcase. Like, he would be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what do you do then? Because tonight we kind of saw Owens spin off with Sami Zayn once again. You just throw them both into that match, and after that, continue on with that feud, kind of pick it up?
Yeah, down, and maybe even fight over the briefcase. I guess you can't technically do that, but you can always change the rules.
Sure.
You could do a program with that for sure.
Big news that happened today beyond the pay-per-view was the release of Cody Rhodes. An agreed-upon release. It seemed he asked for it.
He asked for it.
He asked for the release and got it. And he has written a very long, well, not a very long, but, a note about why he wanted this release. And he took a couple shots here at the head writers of Raw and SmackDown. And do you think this is echoing many of the sentiments of the guys behind the scenes, Dave?
Yeah, but you know what? Okay, so I actually need to ask some more people about like the whole thing. It's a funny thing because it was kind of it was like a hard thing to like really figure out because I still don't exactly know why he quit. But I have a pretty good feel for it now. But so much sometimes the writers sometimes when they're criticized when it comes to like certain storylines and stuff, but at the end it's still Vince. And when it comes to like him talking about like making pitches to these guys and they're not listening, they probably had the directive from above that hey, we're not pushing this guy. So it's really Vince. Sometimes it's like when J.J. Dillon or J.R. or John Laurinaitis or somebody would have to fire somebody or tell them bad news, and the guys go, well, Vince liked me, but goddamn, John Laurinaitis hated me. And I was really thinking, do you really not know this business at all?
Yeah.
And I kind of read that, Cody's been around. That's why I need to talk to some people, because when I read it, I thought, like, you've been around for years. Your father, knows the business better than almost anyone. It's like those guys are told who they can push and who they can't. It's like, so if you're coming in the position that you're in and you're coming up with ideas, they're probably not going to listen because they already know that, hey, the guy at the top has already closed his mind to you for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's definitely a sad situation because it's apparent that that's really what's happened. He's just not happy with what they've done with him. He himself mentioned acting and other things, but do you think he'll show up? TNA or something like that, or
well, he states right at the end of his explanation, he
he's
wants
to
wrestle.
Yeah,
he's a wrestler.
Yeah.
Well.
I don't know where else he would go. I can't see him going to Ring of Honor.
I don't see him as a good fit for Ring of Honor at all. Maybe for an appearance for about a month's worth of appearances like Del Rio did. But as a regular, no, I don't think it really fits well. Unless he's got something he wants to prove,
right.
like Drew Galloway.
Right.
That like, hey, they screwed me and I'm a really good wrestler and I never got to show it. And then Ring of Honor would be a place you would want to go. TNA, there's so many questions about TNA. I mean, if they get money and they're solid, yes. But we don't know that that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And then the only other place to go is New Japan. Would they be interested in him?
I don't know about that either.
Maybe yes, maybe no. And would he be interested? Who knows?
I don't know. They could team with Captain New Japan, I guess. I don't know.
That's not a good spot. He would be happy doing that. That's for sure.
I don't know. I don't see him in New Japan. I just don't see him there.
Now, sometimes when someone is in the WWE bad books, other people get affected by that when they're related to a certain person.
Yeah.
What do you see transpiring with Brandi Runnels, known as Eden? She's a ring announcer in WWE.
She was on the show tonight.
She was. Do you see? Because there's a lot of people vying for this spot.
The ring announcing spot.
The ring announcing spot, backstage interviewer, etc.
Oh, yeah.
This is not necessarily a great spot, I would guess, for Eden here.
Oh, God, but when Punk and them had problems, they still pushed AJ until AJ, for the most part, couldn't handle it, and didn't, because of the lawsuit. I think just it was a bad place for her. But it wasn't, everyone was going like, oh, they're going to bury AJ because of Punk, and they really didn't. I think, in fact, because of, it's one of those situations, my gut tells me that if anything, they're going to be in the opposite direction and like not get rid of her because it will look, if they do, everyone will go, oh, you're just mad because of her husband and everything. But will she like it? It's you worked the same job with your husband for years and years, and now all of a sudden he's not there.
Right.
Now you're wrestling, and it becomes a really weird deal. And I don't know what she's going to want to do, but. Yeah, time will tell, I guess.
It's going to be an interesting one to see how it plays out, that's for sure.
Yeah.
One of the other interesting things we heard this week, Dave, is about Raw getting a replay on the Sci-Fi Network now on Friday nights. And I'm curious about this because that's where SmackDown used to be. Did Raw approach them or did the Sci-Fi approach the WWE?
I would guess that this is probably an NBC Universal deal.
Okay.
Because WWE is not going to approach them because it's out of their hands, and I think NBC Universal probably looks at the Sci-Fi, channel has fallen out of the top 25, and they probably figured that wrestling is, a way to get them back into the top 25. If people will watch a Raw replay, and we'll see. I mean, I think more people will watch a Raw replay than what they probably have in programming, but so I think that they did it, and USA is probably going like, look, it's Friday. It's not going to hurt our Monday rating that many days later with an edited show.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, teamwork between NBC Universal. So, yeah, they would have come. Now, is WWE getting extra money for that? That's an interesting question, and that I don't know the answer to.
Oh, I would assume they would be.
Well, then it's good for WWE.
We talked about Money in the Bank earlier, and one of the names popping up returning is also John Cena. But an announcement that came out recently is the fact that John Cena is going to be hosting the ESPYs. And, Dave, that leaves me to question, how much time does John Cena have in the WWE, especially as a full-time performer?
Yeah, I think John Cena will have an affiliation with the WWE for a long, long time to come. But as far as being a full-time performer, I think that depends on, number one, how his body holds up. He's had a lot of injuries. And the other one is how these other things, like if he gets an offer to do something that requires him not to be full-time, like when he got that TV show, okay? But the TV show is probably American Grid. It's probably not getting renewed.
Yeah.
But if he were to get like a TV gig or something like that, I think that he would end up like The Rock, but without the long, break between, because when The Rock left, I think there was a mentality with The Rock that he had to prove himself, and there were people who advised him to get away from wrestling, and then he and Vince made up, and he came back to wrestling. But with John, I don't think he's ever going away from wrestling. I don't think there'll ever be that break. But as a full timer, I think I think it's just the same as with Jericho. If things come up and there's something there outside, then he'll probably be gone or take hiatuses or whatever. And if nothing's there, he'll probably be wrestling.
We also wanted to get a bit of an injury update as well, Dave. Obviously, I think we saw Dana Brooke tonight because, both Emma and Sasha appear to be, well, Emma for sure is out for quite a while time, and Sasha out for a while as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, Sasha, we just don't know because it's a head injury, and I believe it's a concussion. And because of that, that's a real unpredictable one. Emma, Emma's probably going to be out for 6 months, maybe longer. I mean, she had neck surgery, right? So or low back surgery, I should say. So yeah, that's never a good thing.
Last week, the big story on the show was the UFC sale, and for this week, we have some silent bidding going on here. Are there more details on this, Dave?
Not a lot. I mean, there's an a closed auction going on. I don't think the bids have not been put in yet, as far as I know. I don't know what the deadline is, but it hasn't come. What I know is it hasn't come because there's people still raising money on the outside and people still coming up with plans. But like I said to you guys last week, I mean, it is. I don't know that it's 100% that they're bidding in the sense 100% of the company, but I know that the bids are for majority interest. And how, I mean, somebody even asked me a question I didn't know the answer to, is that what if somebody bids, let's say, $3 million for 70%, and somebody else bids $2.5 million for like 65%? Like, is it by the total gross? I guess that would be up to UFC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That would make sense, whatever deal that they feel is best for them. I'm
still curious, too, Dave. Any insight, again, do you think if Dana White, would he stick around? Or
that's up to Dana. I think that my gut tells me that it's the people who buy it would want to keep Dana White. No matter who it is, they would want to keep him. So I think he's kind of in a good driver's seat because he kind of knows that everyone wants to play ball with him. I mean, maybe someone will buy it that doesn't want him, but I would think that's a bad move, and I wouldn't think somebody would do that.
Now, somebody who says they will leave the company if it gets sold, Joe Rogan, this interview he did, Dave, it really sounds like he's had enough.
He may leave even if he may have left even if it didn't sell. I know he was getting tired. He was getting tired of the travel and things like that. But yeah, and he's a key figure. But you know what? I mean, as much as he is like a fixture and everything on the preview shows, I mean, the preview shows have gotten less and less important than years past. They really use the embedded more. And then the other thing is obviously as far as they've got a lot of analysts, like Brian Stan does a really good job. So it's not like it was like 7-8 years ago, I think, where it would be a bigger loss, where he was like, Michael, like when they have a show and Mike Goldberg and Joe Rogan aren't doing the announcing, I don't even think twice. I mean, I like all the announcers. They got a lot of good ones. So it's really, I mean, and Brian in a lot of ways, I mean, they're very different. Joe Rogan is more entertaining, I think, than Brian, but Brian, I learn a lot more with Brian Stan than with Joe.
Yes.
So I don't have any problem with Brian Stan at all, is doing that stuff.
One final question before we go here, Dave, and that is, of course, Luke Rockhold will be fighting no longer Chris Weidman, who's sidelined with a neck injury, but instead Michael Bisping. Bisping is taking this fight on very short notice. What do you think his chances are here?
Very, very slim. I think it would have to be Luke Rockhold gets a fluke injury in the fight, and even then, it'd have to be pretty darn serious. I mean, I remember, I watched that first fight, and it was, you know what I mean? I mean, it was not a contest. I mean, Luke Rockhold, just too big, too young, too strong, too everything for Bisping. The one thing Bisping's a great promoter, and maybe he'll be able to talk people into it. And there is this, he's in a spot in his career, where I always use the Jimmy Connors analogy at the end of his career from and Ricky Choshu and all that. And he is in that spot, where the guy where his whole career, everybody didn't like him, but then at the end they started kind of having sympathy for him, like, God, you know what? But he is pretty entertaining, and he's been around for 10 years, 11 years, and he's never really, he's always come close, but he's never gotten that shot, and now he's got the shot. And Luke Rockhold makes a natural villain anyway to people, so I think that you got that, and Bisping's from L.A., living in L.A., so that helps. Although Rockhold's a California guy by origin, so. But yeah, it's I don't like Bisping's chances, but I do. It is a good story.
It's a good story.
I don't know if he can pull the story off.
And I think I could very well see Bisping hang it up after this fight, because I think this is where he's finally got to where he wanted to be. He's got the title shot. If he doesn't win, he's at the tail end. He's got all the eye problems anyway. Dave, what is coming up in the Observer this week?
I guess we're going to find out on Tuesday. I got some business analysis that I've already written. But as far as everything else, coverage of the Super Junior tournament, coverage of tonight, where, Money in the Bank, because I'm sure that we're going to, get a lot of Money in the Bank news on Monday and Tuesday. And, maybe, look, they went to India for a reason, as far as Dixie Carter and John Gaborik. So something may break out of that, too.
Wow.
All right.
Interesting.
Well, we will tune into that, and we'll talk to you next week at this very same time.
Okay, have a great week.
You too. Dave Meltzer, WrestlingObserver.com. Find him there. Read his stuff. Listen to his podcast.